You guys probably think I'm crazy wanting to put drag queens in schools, huh? I thought I'd probably give you a little information about myself and what I'm doing right now with all this, so you can really see that that this is real. When I was a kid, I started working with other kids who had special needs, and I watched them go through school getting picked on for being born different. And in high school, I joined an all-female sport, and I remember what it was like going to school every day and getting picked on and getting ridiculed. And as an adult, it breaks my heart to hear that we are still losing kids to suicide now more than ever because they're not accepted for being who they are. You know, I'll never forget the first time I met my first drag queen. I was at the Oz in Wausau, Wisconsin. It is the gay bar that we have in our town there. And Cass Marie, I think she's from Milwaukee or Madison, but she, girl, you never forget your first queen. And she walked in and she owned it. Every step she took, she owned. She was fabulous. She was so confident and so strong of a person and of a being. She embraced life. She embraced everything. She was glamorous too. And the best thing was that she was a guy in heels. This whole thing was like a man being somebody they weren't, that was so different and dramatic, but also so strong and courageous that I couldn't figure it out. You know, I left the gay bar that night, I was on cloud 9. I felt like I was 6 feet tall and I could take on the world. And and I couldn't. But after spending a night with Cass Marie, hanging out, talking to her, and watching her act with people and interact and just talking to everybody and saying hi to anybody who came in, making some funny joke. I mean, how amazing it was to be the quiet guy that didn't have a lot of confidence, that went through a lot of bullying and felt really small. Come out of that gay bar after having an experience with a drag queen that just made me feel like I was Godzilla. Like, I could handle anything. She built me up so much. And, you know, when I lived in Texas, there was Coco. When I lived in Portland, there was Crystal Lynn. There's always been a girl that's been my uplifting spiritual friend. But she's been a drag queen. Because I love drag queens. And, well, I didn't really think about being one. I mean, when I was younger, I did drag for benefits. And about a year ago, the girls in the valley where I live were like, you need to be a drag queen. Look at you, the tiny little nose and these high cheekbones. You should be a drag queen. And I was like, I have some pictures. And then they're like, no, you should do it again. You need to try it again now. And I'll be darned, I make a pretty good woman. And you know, like, there's a part of me that is expressing that inner person that's inside of me. I do drag a lot different than most queens. To me, it's not much of an art or an act or a lip sync. It's a part of my inner self that I get to let out every once in a while. And she's a woman, and I love it. She has wonderful heels and fabulous leggings. And anyways, I just remembered the feeling I had being that kid that didn't fit in, and how wonderful I felt when I finally met a drag queen who told me I could own the world. And I thought, what if we had, like, okay, like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, where drag queens are in an RV, but what if they went to schools and were motivational speaking, also combined with diversity awareness performance. So we would actually go into the school, and instead of a lip-syncing songs, that would definitely be part of it, but for the most part we would have performance that depicted stories to educate youth about diversity. And I think that some of the acting could be edgy enough to where it would make enough of a difference where people would watch what they were doing a little bit more carefully. You know, if you could depict to a bunch of children what it would look like if somebody they knew committed suicide, that is the honest truth of what we're dealing with in America right now. We have kids as young as 10 years old killing themselves, and we have 3 teacher aides out at the recess during the time there's 300 kids outside to play. I remember the one spot where the teacher aides couldn't see because I was beaten up there. There needs to be something done where we do more education for our kids instead of hope to catch the bad guy before it's too late or after it's too late. You know, we need to really have kids think about their actions to the point where they change themselves. So I thought, like, let's have this performing group of drag queens that is really well put together, where there's choreography and there's an RV, and we travel to different cities across America, and we are in towns talking to kids at their school during the performance, and then making ourselves open for, like, midnight bowling or blacklight bowling on Saturday, or, you know, whatever the case would be. We would be open to them on the weekends as well. And we'd also get to perform during the nightlife at the cities that we were at. So there's a bunch of different aspects I all had at once, but the main one was to be able to go to schools and perform to make a difference and to maybe put the light on bullies. And then I thought, you know, what if we made it optional? So when we're done performing, like, anybody can be one of the divas. DIVAS stands for Diverse Intentional Venue of Acceptance and Support, which means people are a venue to accept and support other people of any diversity. And if we handed out even a t-shirt, we said we had 200 t-shirts, we were looking for people who want to embrace this and become one of the divas. And what your job is, if you take one of these shirts, it's your job to be bully patrol. And you can call out bullies together in the middle of a hallway, so teachers notice when something happens. So all of a sudden you now have students who are acting as regulators against bullying because they're one of the divas. And we would then travel to the next town and do that to another school. And then those students, some of which would be choosing to be divas, they would start this non-bullying cause against any bullies that they found at their school. We would travel on to another city. We would do the same thing over and over and over again. And by the end, we would have a group of people that were working through the schools, in the schools, that were the actual kids fighting to make a difference against bullying. And the whole thing would be launched by Cass Maries, by those drag queens with their fierceness and their individuality that can captivate somebody who is that broken boy who needs a strong anchor in their life. And guess what? I'm one of those people that when I say I'm doing something, I do it. So, I wrote 20-some ads and posted on Craigslist looking for motorhomes. I found a guy willing to donate a motorhome in San Jose, California. He wants us to name the motorhome after his niece. She was 14, and she killed herself because she was being ridiculed for being overweight. We shouldn't have kids killing themselves. Age 10? Can you imagine never experiencing your first kiss or your first adventure to a new country or a new state? Because people made it so bad that you don't want to get up and live another day. You know, I was a guy that lived through that. My first attempt at suicide was when I was 13 years old. And my last attempt was at 21. There was a whole lot of years where I had to hide in the closet and I covered myself up with blankets. And I wanted to be anywhere but where I was. I remember putting the knife to my wrist because death seemed like a better place than being somewhere where I wouldn't be accepted for being who I was. And I think it's high time that we put on some high heels and make a difference and make sure that kids know that what they're doing to each other in that respect is not acceptable. And if we educate our kids to become anti-bullyists in the school system, that's what their main focus is. We're not trying to teach them about drag or show them how to be drag queens. All we're doing is being a diverse group of individuals depicting a scene and storyline so we can educate youth about becoming more aware and acceptable of all the diversities in their life. And I think it could change America. I think this is something that could be groundbreaking, innovative, and fabulous. All with glitter. But more than anything, I can't stop thinking about these kids. I go to bed and I think about the 17-year-old boy who jumped to his death in Minneapolis. I think about the boy in Salt Lake City who was curb stomped. They opened up his mouth on a sidewalk and jumped on the back of his neck, busting out his teeth, breaking his jaw in 3 places. They broke a bunch of his ribs. I have his picture on my phone. I've never met him. I don't know who he is. But he's in the hospital bed with his 2 friends next to him smiling with his broken face. Because people beat him up because he was gay. I think it's time we make a difference and change people's attitudes. And as angry as I get, I'm mainly just brokenhearted because these things should not be what we're hearing in the headlines of kids killing themselves. We have the power to be the bigger people to go make this happen. So, I got the motorhome. I got a few queens. I have a lot of paperwork, a lot of scholarships to ask for, grant money to apply for. But I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is making sure that we don't lose any more of our kids. And if we can get a group of drag queens to pull through to these kids, I say we do it. I say we do it. And that's what I'm going to do. So, you can either sit there and watch me do it or get involved. But one way or another, we're going to have this happen. And I hope you get a little bit more understanding now from my personal story and what I feel should happen with this group, where we should go in the future. Thanks.